Hello, everybody. This is Qesheth again, and 93. This will be the ninth in a series of discussions entitled Tarot, the Major Arcana, and the Paths of Return. In this class, we will be discussing Atu 13, Death, Path number 24. In this series of discussions, I have been talking about the major arcana cards and their relationship to the spiritual journey of the aspirant. For the major arcana cards are a map of the evolution of the universe and the involution, or the evolution of the candidate or the aspirant, and the involution of creation, coming into being and the return. So the path of involution is the path of coming into being, the path of evolution, the path of return. So I'm discussing the major arcana in relationship to the path of return. Again, we'll be discussing Atu 13, Path 24, the Death card. In the Sefer Yetzirah, it says the 24th path is the imaginative intelligence. And it is so called because it gives likeness to all the similitudes which are created in like manner, similar to its harmonious elegances. So in this is a card of rebirth. So it's going to give you a likeness that is closer related to the spiritual energies that you are now becoming. And that's the best way I can explain that. This particular path connects Nexac, Venus, desire nature, the natural person, with Tipperith, spiritual consciousness, the solar center, transformation from natural desire to spiritual desire. This is a zodiacal path. Remember, we talked about that. There are 12 zodiacal paths, 7 planetary paths, and 4 elemental paths. This particular card, this path is ruled by Scorpio, fixed water. Remember that fixed signs fall in the middle of a season. Very stable. People who are ruled by fixed signs are very stable but resistant to change. The planetary rulers for Scorpio are both Mars and Neptune. And again, fixed signs represent the fixing of the elements within the aspirant. So when we talk about the fixing of the signs in the path of aspiration, we're actually talking about taming or fixing the elements within ourselves. Fixing, meaning taking the inner elements that serve the lower desires and redirecting them to serve spiritual aspiration, thus fixing them, kind of like fixing your attention on something. Scorpio rules the sexual organs. The sexual serpent energy is both life and death, depending on the aspirant's use of it. And we talked about that in the other paths. This is the third path leading out of the personality. The sign of Scorpio has 3 animal symbols attributed to it. The scorpion, which represents the lowest form of Scorpio, which is said to sting itself to death when the outer stresses of the environment become intolerable. There's the serpent, which represents the undulating movement of this creative energy, the Kundalini. The movement of the serpent undulating from side to side is also represented on the Masonic carpet with its tessellated edge. The undulating action creates the energy that bonds the contrasts of reality together. For physical creation itself is based on opposites, contrasts. Nothing exists without its opposite. I exist because you exist. The great work is the unification of the opposites to arrive at the one. An example of this serpent action on creation would be the Ouroboros, or the serpent Jormungandr of Norse mythology, or even Leviathan, who encircles the world. Another thing that the serpent does is shed its skin, representing rebirth, another meaning for this card. The third symbol is that of this eagle, seen on the art card that we talked about earlier. Remember, it had the lion and the eagle. So it was on the art card because it represents the highest form of Scorpio, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The scorpion transforms through the redirection of the use of the serpent energy, which he then transforms into the eagle. The path title is the imaginative intelligence, showing the mastery over the illusions of form through imagination. The imagination of the aspirant is redirected from the forms, desires of Netzach, right here, to spiritual desires. It is commonly known that the imagination is the door to the inner worlds. The proper use of the imagination is an important tool for creating new realities. For visualization is the key to the occult. The card title, The Child of the Great Transformers, the Lord of the Gate of Death. The Hebrew letter is Nun, meaning fish, and is a noun, to sprout or to grow. Its numerical value is 50, or 700 final. Interestingly enough, in Gematria, Nun, N equals 106. Another word that adds to 106 in Gematria is attained, showing the attainment of the aspirant on this path. The three paths leading into Tiphereth from the personality are all transformative paths, the destruction of one energy transforming into something else. This is a dark path, also related to the experience of the Negretto phase of the great work. Carl Jung says this: by descending into the unconscious, the conscious mind puts itself into a perilous condition, for it is apparently extinguishing itself. In alchemy, the process being referred to in this card is called putrefaction, the decomposition of the false constructs, illusions of the aspirant, which are no longer essential, leaving the basic framework, the skeleton on which the new creation will be built. For from the refuse of putrefaction, which fertilizes and gives energy to the new creation, a new being is born. Everything in creation is recycled, for when the aspirant has stopped wasting energy on non-essentials, that energy is now made available for the building of the spiritual temple, the pyramid of initiation. For the average person, this process happens without conscious will or control, but with the aspirant who sought this path, he or she willingly submits to this process of conscious dying, with the knowledge that every step is death and a birth, every moment that passes is a death and a birth. To die while still living is the lesson of this path. The skeleton here is attributed to Saturn, which holds the framework of the universe within her. Binah here. The Sephira of life and death, depending on if it's involution or evolution. Saturn also, if you remember, Saturn also rules over the devil card that we talked about earlier, okay? So, the devil card would represent life. This is the path of death on the opposite side of the tree of life. Okay. Crowley's card. Okay, so let's look at the cards. On Waite's card, we see Death riding a pale horse, holding the banner of the material world. All things bow to him, and he does not discriminate between rich and poor. The Pope represents the end of the Piscean aeon or age. Death here is armored like a knight, a warrior, a bringer of death. In the background, you see a path going between two pillars leading to the sun. Right back here. See them? Right there. Showing that through the darkness of this path, the light will dawn, the light of Tippereth. Crowley's card is a bit more complex in its symbology. You see a skeleton whose meaning we discussed earlier. He wears the helmet of Osiris. For this is Osiris in the Egyptian underworld of Amenti, slain by his brother Set, cut to pieces. The pieces then reconstituted by Isis, showing the cyclic action of Saturn. But the phallus was missing. Isis made him a new phallus, replacing the animal will with the spiritual will, which resurrected the dead Osiris, risen from the tomb of matter by the redirecting or transformation of the sexual energies represented by the new phallus. The hat is the hat of Egyptian royalty. It represents the knife used in Egypt to cut the umbilical cord. Alchemically, that process would be called materna separatio, separation from the mother. The mother here being the material world, who is Bina manifested as Netzach. See Bina reflecting into Netzach there. And is now seeking union with the source of all these creations. Well, the mother here being the material world, who is Bina manifested as Netzach. The world of temporal love and desire. Here, temporal love and desire. For the aspirant has now left behind the illusions and desires of the manifested world, and is now seeking union with the source of all these creations. The great mother of the universe, Binah, in her highest expression is Amma. The pure unmanifested essence, also represented by the Virgin High Priestess. He carries a scythe, a symbol of Saturn, a scythe or sickle. See it right there? Excuse me. It's a symbol of Saturn, time, a harvesting implement. And something else I didn't point out is when I was talking about the new phallus given to him by Isis, you can see it in the Crowley card here. See, it's redirected to spiritual aspiration and the creating of new realities. He waves the scythe, and new forms are created by the imagination of the aspirant. Thus the title of the card, the imaginative intelligence. You see the fish of Nun here. The fish is also attributed to Mercury, the magician, showing the redirecting of these processes through conscious will. Again, the magician card is here. Hod is also attributed to Mercury and is a sephira of magic, or ceremonial magic. Remember that the definition of magic is causing change and conformity to will. The fish is also attributed here because of its procreative abilities, its abilities to procreate. There is the serpent here and the eagle. Remember what we said in the last discussion. The fire serpent, the watery scorpion, produces the eagle. The eagle represents the result of the alchemical process of distillation, to distill something, creating the vapor, pure spiritual essence. The swirls are also seen in the devil card. Here you see these swirls of creation. Represent the spiral creative force of the universe, also the matrix, the web of weird, which are also the waters in which we, the fish, all swim in the great universal sea. The fish is also a symbol of the old aeon, the aeon of Pisces, where salvation depended on the sacrifice of another. Now it is the aspirant themselves who have arrived at this state through their own self-discipline and self-sacrifice. I am reminded of Odin, who hung upon the tree Yggdrasil, sacrificing himself to receive the runes, the mysteries. Also Christ crucified, the death of the material man and the rebirth of the spiritual. Another name, uh, another process that kind of relates to this card is called morta facto, and it kind of translates as mourning. Mourning, so the aspirant will mourn for that which has been lost, the old self with all its worldly desires. A lot of the problems that the aspirant will find as they begin to uh, transcend the lower paths is that a lot of the problems that they will go through are due to their addictions to the material world, withdrawal, so to speak. We are all addicted to many things in the material world. We're all addicted to the material world. And the reason I say this is because I have talked to students who said, well, I'm not addicted to anything. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't do drugs. I said, and I asked them, where are your thoughts? Where do your thoughts keep going? That shows your addictions. Because of this, we have chemicals within our body that are produced in the brain that coincide with every emotion we have. There are chemicals, right, for depression, for anger, for lust. Close your eyes right now and have a lustful thought. You'll feel these chemicals coursing through your mind or through your body. Do this daily, repeat these activities daily through repetition and habit, and your body will become addicted to these chemicals. And so what will happen is that your body, your spirit will begin to rearrange physical events in order to get this stimulation. So one of the big problems, one of the big obstacles in rising out of the paths of the personality is overcoming our personal addictions. Speaking of that, Scorpio people who are ruled by Scorpio are in danger of falling into hopelessness and addictions of all kinds, including sexual addictions, especially sexual addictions. And I've known Scorpio people. I've known a lot of them. And they tend to be a lot of them tend to be very self-destructive or very addicted. But they can also be very intuitive and have the innate ability to be very spiritually enlightened beings. It depends on how they choose to focus their energies. Okay, well, let me go ahead and go through the attributions real fast for this card. The color in the king scale is green-blue. Some of the god forms, Kali, Shiva, Mara, Neptune, Poseidon, Mars. The stone is snake stone. The plants would be all cactuses. The animals, we talked about the scorpion, the serpent, and the eagle. The magical power gained here is necromancy. And you remember that I'm referred back to Odin again, who would summon up dead sorceresses so he could receive information about the future, especially the future of Ragnarok. The magical weapon is the pain of obligation. So think about that, the pain of obligation. At this point, you have obligated yourself to finish this path, to finish this great work. And it's a great pain as you leave behind the things that you love so much, all these temporal pleasures and love, but you will see that they were never worth clinging to in the first place. Nothing temporal is. We live in a world that is temporal. Everything in this creation perishes. All your loves will die. All your desires will end with suffering. I mean, once you see the nature of reality, the grand joke that has been pulled before your eyes, you will be more comfortable with leaving it. If you're going to do a ritual for this path, I would recommend the lesser hexagram ritual because it contains the formula, the LDX. Uh, if you're inclined toward the Lima, the Holy Book reading would be Liber 65. I believe it's uh, Liber 65, chapter 3, the water chapter, which goes pretty deeply into the energies of how water works on our spiritual path, or the spiritual waters, the alchemical waters. I'm going to end this discussion with a reading by Crowley. Just bear with me. This is what Crowley has to say. The universe is change. Every change is the effect of an act of love. All acts of love contain pure joy. Die daily. Death is the apex of one curve of the snake, life. Behold all opposites as necessary complements and rejoice. With that, I will close this discussion. I will continue to I will continue these series of discussions on all the 22 cards of the Major Arcana, and then I'll finish up with a discussion on the minor cards. With some great tips on how to understand them and read them. And then after that, this series of discussions will end. If you like this video, please like it. And if there's something else you would like me to touch on that you would like to learn, please leave it in the comments. I will respond. My name is Qesheth. I have been a student of the mysteries for over 30 years. I do stumble up sometimes. Sometimes my speech is not so clear. I do have a speech impairment. I'm also an old man, so I'm trying to bring information out of the storehouse of my memory. So again, I thank you for your time. I hope that this class helped you in the understanding of this card. 93.